You ought to know that no piggy bank is safe on this YouTube channel. You talking to me? You talking to me? One, two. Hey everybody, this is James and you're watching my channel, Cad Roll Hunter. And you can see something interesting is going to happen today. I don't know exactly how safe this little piggy ought to be, but if you've watched my past videos, you know that piggy banks and this channel don't mix. Well, maybe they mix really well, but it doesn't go so well for the piggy. My friend Tim, the antiques dealer, sent me a message earlier today and he said, "Hey James, I got something for you." And he sent me a picture of what you see here. And he was clearing out an estate. He purchases estates, furniture, and antiques, and all sorts of stuff. This was all the coins that was in there, and he didn't really care to have to go through all this. So this is completely unsearched. This is not a collection. I think this is just pocket change that people in this home had put into jars over the years. I've taken a little peek, and I don't think there's anything particularly old. And I'll open this guy up here because it is full to the brim, and it's mostly pennies. So Tim knows I'm pretty interested in coins. He knows I have lots of fun going through them. He sold this whole lot to me for $40 Canadian. Now, I thought for fun we would just do a little tally together and just see how close I am, because I think that there's probably more than $40 in pennies here. I think it might be closer to $50 if it was just pennies. But you can see in here, we've got some US, we've got some dimes, we've got nickels, so maybe I'll make up a little bit of that extra. Now, I know Tim's not so worried about losing money. This was all part of a larger purchase that he got, so it's not like he paid a particular specific amount for this stuff here. I think it was just all part of the sales. So he wasn't too keen on counting it all and rolling it up and taking it to the bank or anything like that. So I'll do that. Maybe I'll make out a little better than $40. That would be awesome. But what I'm really looking forward to is seeing if there's any treasure in here. And now let's talk a little bit about what I expect to find and what I don't expect to find. I don't think I'm going to find any silver. If we do, it might be one thing that just kind of happened to get mixed in. I suppose that's always a possibility. I don't really expect to find anything particularly old. Just looking, you can see there's bright, shiny edges, even right to the bottom of some of these containers. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to do a little bit of scoping and weighing and testing with the magnet to see if we can find any of the modern varieties. That's really cool. Now, the star of this show might very well be our little piggy friend right here, because it's going to be hard for me to capture this, but he is heavy and he is full right to the brim. Now, I suppose I don't have to bust into him because there is a little hole there, but honestly, what fun would that really be? Come on. I got the hammer out and everything. I'm ready for it. So we'll take a tally as we go. We'll see if I do better than my $40. We'll add anything to the tally that might be valuable or interesting. And I think we're going to have to start by cracking into this pig. Now, if you haven't seen my last piggy bank video, you want to check that out. I'll put a link up in the top here for you to see that video. We had lots of fun and we found some really, really cool stuff in there. When I smashed into that piggy bank, half of you complained that I destroyed a good vintage piggy bank, and half of you complained that I covered it up with a towel so you couldn't see the point of impact. I guess you wanted to see the gore. Now, I'm hoping that I can do right by both of these groups. First of all, this is not an antique. It's probably from the 80s or 90s or something. It's not terribly old. There are tons of these around. It doesn't have a whole lot of value. So that's that. The other thing is that I think we should not cover them up. We're going to show that. And now, of course, safety first on my channel. I've covered up my computer screen here. I don't want to get a piece of glass going through the monitor. And of course, you got to be certain to be wearing the protective eyewear if you're going to be using a hammer with a piggy bank. No exceptions. Oh boy, here we go. This is chock full. I don't even know what's going to happen. I think this is going to spill out all over the place, but let's not belabor this anymore. Let's just get this done. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah.
3. Oh yeah.
Nice whack right in there. All right, well, this was definitely full, and it's going to fall apart And I'm seeing a fair amount of dimes and nickels in there, so I think there's a pretty good opportunity for us to come ahead of the 40 bucks. That looks pretty good. And yeah, so I think what I'm gonna have to do is try to get these little sharp bits out of the way, get the coins on the mat. I think what I'm gonna start to do is separate out all the nickels, dimes, and if there's any quarters in here, and I'll let you know if we've got anything valuable. Like I said, I don't expect to find silver, but we might find some older things, who knows? And certainly anything that is 5 cents and is made of nickel, I'll be putting in the nickel cup. And we'll also want to be finding how much copper we can get out of all this. We're going to start with the Piggy though, because he had the gall to show up here and he should have known this was not a safe space for pigs. And now that these are all spilled out, it actually looks like there's a lot more in here than I thought. I think there's, even if this is all just pennies, I think this is gonna be more than $40 of the pennies. But there's a fair amount of dimes and nickels. So I'm gonna get started with that and I'll let you in on what's happening. Just partway through pulling out anything that has the silver look about it, but I did find a laureate portrait, 1963. So there's some stuff in here. I'm gonna separate all that stuff out like I would in my normal hunts. And I'll let you know what we ended up with, of course. Just working my way through this and I spy something old here. It is a Lincoln wheat cent. Looks pretty old and grungy. And it is old. Look at that, 1916. I haven't seen any other wheat cents, but that's an oldie and a goodie. Wow, incredible. So there ended up being a pretty big stack of nickels and dimes, no quarters or anything like that. So far, the only oldies that I've seen are that 63 and that 62, and of course that 1916 wheat cent. So I'm going to get a tally of this. I'm also going to look to see if there are any errors, varieties, that sort of stuff. I don't think there will be, but I'll separate out the nickel from the Cupro nickel and steel and give you a tally, and then we'll tackle the cents. So just in face value alone, we're doing really well. We got $9.10 in dimes. And we got just shy of $8, $7.90 actually in nickels. Now I'm going to have a look through them and see if there's anything interesting or valuable, any varieties. I kind of doubt it. There might be a couple more older ones. We'll find out, and we'll find out how much nickel is going in the nickel cup. So in the dimes, the only thing we found was one American. We found a couple American nickels. We found one more laureate portrait, 1964, not the extra water line, and a lower mintage 1991. That all goes along with that 1916 wheat cent, which is by far our best find. And we've added 8.4 ounces to the nickel cup. So we got some nickel, and I've rolled some stuff up here, or got some stuff ready to roll up to take back to the bank. So first step was just to count up all the pennies. I've got $7. That's 7 rows of 10 piles, each of 10 pennies. So $7. And 28 cents. That includes the 1916 wheat cent. Next step for me is to separate all the copper from the zinc and steel. I'm going to look through them and see if there are any errors or varieties or scarce dates or oldies. And I'll separate out the American as well. And so we're doing well. So we'll add that to the tally. And we found one more dime to add to our dime count. Awesome. And there's the carnage left over by our little Piggy there. I think I'll clean that up so I don't get myself cut. It'll be Piggy's revenge. I just threw a 1979 under the scope, took a look at it, and it has some exceptionally heavy doubling on the 979. This is the double 979. This is die deterioration doubling. It's not a double die, but you can see a little bit of deterioration on the edges of the maple leaf as well. But that's a cool one. I'll set that aside. I really like these ones, particularly when it's really striking across many of the numbers. Making my way what would be through like the fourth roll there. Found a couple of laureate portraits, both 1964, but just on my way through this one, found another wheat cent, another old American. This one here is a 1953 Denver. Well, look who showed up to the party. It is King George VI. This one is a 1951, our first King George VI in here. Awesome. Hopefully not our last. So the Piggy yielded us some good copper, 2 full cups there, totaling 3.16 ounces. And I have yet to include the stuff I've pulled aside here. We got some laureate portraits, that King George VI, a couple of wheat cents, and a short stack of US copper. I'll add that to the tally too. There you have it. Every little bit counts, another 3.8 ounces. So we'll add that to the tally. I think the next thing we'll do is tackle this jar because it's got some silver stuff in there. It's got quarters, nickels, and dimes as well. I think that's going to push our tally up before I see these guys. What I'm really hoping is that one of these was filled up a long time ago. I'd love to see if at the bottom of this really old antique tin can, if there's some old stuff, like a whole bunch of King George V would be incredible. I don't know if this is going to be easy to get out of here. I don't really want to smash it up, but everything's getting kind of getting caught up in that bottleneck. All right, well, I'm going to two-hand it, no camera. I'll get this all out, but it looks like there's a fair amount of dimes and nickels in here, so that bodes pretty well for us. Wow, okay, well, another huge mound of coins and another bunch of nickels and dimes I'm going to have to sort out. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do is get all that stuff out, count it up, and see how we do there. And then I'll count up the pennies, and I can see a laureate portrait there, so we're going to get hopefully some goodies in here too. So I think I've got everything out of there, left with just the pennies here. I'll count them up in a minute, but we ended up getting $8.50 in dimes. That's great. We got 85 cents in nickels and 75 cents in quarters. I'll add all of that to the tally, and then we'll count this up. I think we're going to be pretty much over our $40 once we add all this stuff in. We'll find out for sure with the pennies, but that means we got bonus pennies in those other two jars, and so that's pretty cool. So no keepers in the nickels, dimes, or quarters, but we did get another 1.6 ounces of nickel to add to our tally. Whew, okay, well, there's all the pennies counted up. We've got $8.89, and I think we must be getting pretty close to our $40, and we still have two huge jars to go. That's awesome. What I'm going to do now is sort through all of this and see if we find anything old or cool or valuable. Here's another 79 under the scope, and you can see lots of doubling under that 9. There's a little bit under the 7. Maybe just a tiny bit to the side of that 9. And in hand, this has still got a bit of luster on it. It's got a blemish. I'll hold on to that just for now. 4 more laureate portraits, all from the 60s, but I'm pulling you in because I got another wheat cent here. This one is going to be 1945. And look who's back. It's our good buddy George VI. This one, a 1950. I'm in the next handful, and here's another one from the 50s. This is a laureate portrait, a 1958. Just found this 63 as I'm going through things, and right behind it, I saw this 1952. That is our second King George VI in this lot. Awesome. Next stack of pennies, and we've got a wheat cent. It looks pretty slick. It's always hard to know what the year is going to be based on that, though. And this one is a 1947 Denver. And right at the very end of that group, an older Elizabeth, a 1956 laureate portrait. We got one more little row to go here in this jar, but we found a King George VI again. This time, what's it going to be? It's an early one, 1940. First year was 37, and this one actually looks to be in pretty good shape. It's brown, but lots of great detail. Last row here for this jar, another King George VI. This one is the 47, not the one with the maple leaf. This was the one that was actually minted in 1947. So there's 2 overflowing cups of copper. The total for that is going to be 3 pounds, 7.8 ounces to add to our tally. And I will add all of the copper that I've got sitting over here so we know exactly what we got. Adding all of our individual finds gives us another 7.6 ounces. I didn't bring you in for all the things I found here, particularly the laureate portraits. I'm going to put them over on the side with all the rest of our finds so far. We'll do a tally at the end. I'll just continue to bring you in when we've got really unique and interesting finds, but we'll do a full tally at the end. We've got a couple more jars to get into. I've emptied out that peacock tin. It looks like much of the same. It's going to be mostly pennies. I'm going to get this all counted up. I did see somewhere, there's a dime and at least 1 quarter, American quarter in there. So there might be a few surprises in here, but I'll get this all counted up and we'll see how we're making out. So all those pennies have been counted, not sorted just yet, but we ended up with the equivalent of over 22 rolls of pennies. That was crazy. That's over $11.23. Well, $11.23 exactly. But we did find a few other things. We did find a quarter, a US quarter, and 90 cents in dimes. So we'll add that to the tally. And we found a couple of foreigns, our first non-American foreigns. These are really beautiful. I have seen these before, older versions, which are bigger. This is from Bahamas. This one's got a little mark on it. This other one here Looks to be pretty flawless. So we're not going to count that in our dollar value, but that's just cool that we found a couple foreigns. Really nice coins. Beautiful. I'm in the third of those 22 rolls from that jar, and we got another oldie. It's another 1940. Pretty dark, pretty circulated. King George VI. I'm in that same quote-unquote roll, and there's a 1944, another King George VI. And we're going to get another wheat cent. This is our fifth so far. It's a 1956 out of Denver. Wheat cent number 5 is going to be a 1951 Denver. And actually, that's number 6 already. We have the equivalent of 5 rows left here, and I just pulled up here another wheat cent. And we'll flip it over and we'll see what that is. And that looks like it's an oldie. That looks like it's a 35 Denver. I'm going to throw that under the scope here. It is absolutely a 1935, a 30s wheat cent in this jar of mostly Canadian pennies. And that looks pretty nice. Definitely has some circulation wear, but it's not slick by any means. That's pretty cool. All right, so finished with that jar. That's going to give us another 2 pounds, 14.7 ounces just in the copper cup. And adding our fines on there, that's another 7.8 ounces. Got one more jar to go. All right, one more to go, the big guy. I might have to do this one in shifts. I don't think I can fit all these pennies on my desk now that I've got some of our fines all lined up here. This is going to be interesting. So I'm a little over halfway through that big jar, and I've already counted out $14 worth of pennies. But in addition to that, we've got $1.10 in dimes, 1 quarter, and 1 nickel. We'll add all of that to the tally. And I think I got to sort through all of this to make room on the mat to dump the rest of this out and see what else we got. So I'm about halfway through this half of that jar, and so far it's been pretty cold. Lots of copper and a handful of laureate portraits I've thrown up there, but I finally found an older King George VI, if I can get it to focus. We got ourselves a 1951, so not a lot of old stuff in here, but not a lot of new stuff either. The newest stuff is just 2001. So that tells me that this pile of coins has been sitting around for a while. Getting down to it here, we got another King George VI, this time 52. Very next handful of coins, we got a George. It looks pretty trashy. It's a 1949. We can check this one for a variety, though. Got it under the scope. What we got here is the A pointing between large denticles, and that's the common variety. What we would hope to find is the A pointing to the denticle. That's the valuable one that you want to find for sure. Same bundle, just a little further back. It's our first wheat penny from this bunch. It's a 1951 Denver. So there's another 5 pounds, 1.8 ounces of copper to add to our copper stack. I'll add the fines, the copper fines there, and we'll see what our tally is. And we got one last load to go. And here's the US copper and our small number of fines for that bunch. And that's going to add another 7.7 ounces to our tally. Okay, the last group of pennies is all counted up, and it totals $8.41 to add to our tally. Plus, we got 5 bonus dimes, so another 50 cents. And in case you didn't know, jars of pennies are filthy. Look at all the dirt here, and I've wiped this mat down several times and gotten all the big debris off, and there's been buttons and paper clips and pins and other things in the jar too. So, I know there's at least going to be a couple fines because I see at least one, and I saw a second wheat cent just on the ends of these, and I just kind of rolled these up quickly, or not wrapped them up, I said just stacked them up quickly, I should say. So there might be a few more fines in there. Hopefully there are, but I'm guessing right now, I'll have to look back when I'm editing the video. I think we did much better than the $40 face value in terms of what I spent. And I think we're going to get a fair amount of copper. I've been pouring the copper after we weigh it into this big bucket, and it's pretty hefty. We got another Georgie. This one is going to be another 1952. We found a bunch of these ones. Here's that first wheat cent, a 1951 Denver. Pretty grungy looking. I believe this is going to be our 10th wheat cent of this huge haul of pennies. This is a 1949 Denver. So we got another 4 and I could barely make it out, but it is another starfish, 1 cent from the Bahamas. I don't even think I'm going to be able to get a date off it. It is in pretty grungy condition, but this is the same size and shape as these Canadian and American cents, so I almost tossed it in with the Canadians. The only reason I looked closer was to determine, is it copper or is it zinc or steel? And then I found it's actually from the Bahamas. So I'll set that aside. It's an interesting find, albeit in terrible condition. Here's the other wheat cent we could see on the top of that pile there. That's a 1949, this time from Philadelphia. So we haven't seen the last of George. Will this be something other than a 1952? It will. It's going to be a 1946. Okay, I have finished the last of those coins, and that was an effort. This last little bit yielded 3 pounds, 7.6 ounces, and we'll just get those last few finds on here and get our final tally of copper. And there you have it, the last of it, another 4 ounces. I'm going to just get these things all set aside and we'll do a little bit of a tally on how we did with everything. Well, that's all she wrote for Mr. Piggy and his friends. He coughed up a whole lot. Just to recap, I paid $40 for that whole lot of coins. Presumably they were going to be mostly pennies, but I ended up getting $80.46 in face value. So I paid less than half face for everything that we got. There was the equivalent of 100 rolls of pennies, about 100 and a bit. So just about 101 in pennies. And of that, we've got here is all the stuff that's going to go back to the bank, the zinc and steel cents. But we got over 20 pounds of copper. That is a lot of copper. There's my US copper that's separated out. And then we got a little bit of nickel because we had over $29 in other denominations. So all that stuff's going to get rolled up and go back to the bank. Dimes, nickels, we got some quarters. And in terms of finds for the hunt, in our 100 rolls, we certainly didn't come home empty-handed. We got all sorts of goodies. We ended up getting 68 laureate portrait pennies in the 60s, mostly circulated. We didn't really get anything uncirculated. Probably the nicest one is that 64 on top there. So that was really cool. We got 13 in the 50s, starting with some King George the 6th 50, 51, a couple of 52s, a few 52s, a couple of 53s, 56s, 57, 58, 59. We even got some into the 40s, a couple 1940s. We didn't get any from the 30s, but the two 40s, those were our oldest ones. 44, 46, 47, 49, not the A pointing to the large denticle. And we actually got 10 wheat cents. The earliest one, I think our best find of the hunt, this 1916, that's pretty awesome. Our close second is this 1935 Denver. We got a 45, a 47 Denver, a 49, 49 Denver, and then into the 50s, a couple of 1951 Denvers. We got a 53 Denver, a 56 Denver, and a 50. Oh, that's another 51 Denver. So we got a few 51 Denvers. So we did pretty awesome. I took out a few bright and shinies here. Some of them are a few copper cents from the 90s. I'll check the album and see if they might upgrade. And a few of those double date 1979s we got. Some pretty nice copper cents. Nice US copper cent. That's a nice bright shiny 67. And we got a few foreigns too. We got 3 1 cents from the Bahamas, an older trashy one and a couple newer ones. All of that from a lot of pennies that I got from my antique dealer, Tim. And I think he eyeballed it and thought that $40 seemed like a good deal, or he decided it was a pretty cheap way of getting somebody to sort them all out and get them out of the bank or out to the bank. So anyway, I took care of that. It was a lot of effort. I spent several hours going through all of these things. So that was a lot of fun. We found lots of cool stuff. You never know what you're going to get when you search a whole lot of pennies and other coins. I really hope that you enjoyed this video looking through the piggy bank and the other jars that I got just to see if we could find any treasure and do better than the $40 that I paid, and we certainly did better than that. You got this far in the video, so if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, CAD Roll Hunter, please click the button and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Give the video a like. That's going to make sure that other people discover my channel and watch my videos. And then hit that notification bell so you know when my new videos are coming out. I have new videos coming out all the time. Thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate it. We'll see you again next time. Hello, little piggy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I think we're going to be really good friends. You got a lot of nerve, Piggy. And exactly what is with this smug look? Say hello to my little friend. How dare you show your piggy little face around here? The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.